Welcome to Revisit Books Podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a real titan of personal development, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I mean, this book, it's more than just a book, isn't it? It's kind of a cornerstone text. Its legacy, well, it really endures, especially its unique take on success and financial achievement.
Absolutely. And our mission today, really, is to unpack the most potent, the most actionable insights from this incredibly influential work. We want to give you a sort of shortcut, a concentrated dose of its core wisdom, and explore why these ideas still resonate so strongly today.
Okay, so let's start with a quick overview. The book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, first published way back in 1937.
Right, 1937. And the backstory is fascinating. Hill spent, what, over 20 years?
Yeah, over 2 decades.
Researching hundreds of successful people. Apparently, Andrew Carnegie himself challenged him to find a kind of secret formula for achievement, something anyone could use. And this book, well, this is the result of all that research. It's distilled from countless real-world success stories.
And the promise it makes is pretty bold. It talks about offering a dependable philosophy of individual achievement. It lays out these 13 steps to riches. And these steps, they're designed to help anyone reach a specific, definite goal.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just about money, is it?
No, exactly. It could be fame, power, contentment, peace of mind, really any definite aim. The book really tries to give you both the what to do and the how to do it. Makes it feel very actionable.
Yeah, and the republisher's preface really doubles down on that. It says the text has ideas with the power to transform people's lives. It's framed as helping you start your journey to discovering the riches in your life, which suggests, like you said, riches means more than just cash. It's about a richer life overall.
So let's think about who this is really for. Who's the ideal listener for the insights we're discussing today?
Well, I think if you've ever felt, frustrated, maybe stuck, or just overwhelmed by things, or maybe you're searching for a definite goal, a real purpose, but you're just not sure how to actually get there, this book speaks to that directly.
Right. And it also seems really relevant if you're facing a major reset, like having to begin all over again after a setback.
Yeah.
Or even if you're starting completely from scratch without finances, trying to figure out how to turn ideas into something tangible, like money. It really champions that inner power.
Definitely. And beyond that, if you're aiming to boost your career, maybe market your skills better or develop those leadership qualities, these principles are gold. So basically, if you're after personal growth, financial improvement, or just a structured way to approach success, and you want those aha moments without getting lost in theory, then yeah, this discussion should be right up your alley.
Okay, great. Let's jump into the first key takeaway then. 1, the indomitable power of burning desire and persistence. This first one feels absolutely central to everything Hill talks about. He says, thoughts, when you mix them with, definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire, they become these incredibly powerful forces. They can literally translate your goals into reality.
Exactly. And he's very clear. Weak desires, they just lead to weak results. It's simple but profound. Riches, as he puts it, don't just respond to wishes. They respond to definite plans. Plans backed by definite desires and pursued with relentless, constant persistence.
He uses some amazing stories to illustrate this, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. The story of Edwin C. Barnes and Thomas Edison is a classic. Barnes had this burning desire not just to work for Edison.
Right, but to be his business associate.
Yeah.
A huge distinction.
A huge distinction. And he had nothing. No money, no connections, but his desire was so intense, he traveled to Edison's lab by blind baggage.
Stowing away on a freight train.
Yeah, just think about that level of commitment. He started with menial work, sure, but the key thing Hill notes is he burned all bridges behind him. There was no retreat. He was all in until that dream became real. It just perfectly shows how definite desire and persistence can smash through seemingly impossible obstacles.
Wow. That's real conviction. And then there's the flip side, that cautionary tale about R.U. Darby.
Ah, yes, the man who stopped 3 feet from gold.
Exactly. A devastating mistake in his mining venture. But the lesson he learned was invaluable.
Right, because he later made back his losses many times overselling life insurance. Why? Because he applied that lesson. He vowed never, ever to quit just because someone said no.
It shows how sometimes those near misses, those 3 feet from gold moments, teach the most critical lessons about persistence.
And then there's Henry Ford, another powerful example. Remember the V8 engine story?
Oh, yeah. His engineers kept saying it was impossible to cast it in one block.
For a whole year, they kept telling him can't be done, but Ford's response was just produce it anyway.
Just produce it anyway. Unbelievable.
He told them, stay on the job until you succeed no matter how much time is required. And eventually, they did it. His determination had won once more. It just hammers home that persistence can overcome things everyone else thinks are impossible.
It really makes you think, though. Ford's belief literally created something deemed impossible. In our world today, we hear so much about pivoting quickly, failing fast. How do you think Hill's idea of singular burning persistence fits in? How do you know when it's persistence versus just stubbornness? When is it time to pivot versus pushing through?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think Hill would argue that the burning nature of the desire is the key. If it's truly that deep, that all-consuming persistence is usually the path. But it's not about blindly repeating failed actions. It's about adjusting the plan, adapting the how, while keeping that core desire absolutely fixed. The desire is the compass.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you have that individual drive,
Yeah.
Hill talks about amplifying it, often through working with others. Which leads us nicely into the second big idea, the mastermind principle, too. The mastermind principle and strategic planning for success, right? The mastermind. Hill defines this as, let me get it right, coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose.
Yeah.
He's pretty emphatic that no single person has enough knowledge or experience to build, say, a great fortune entirely on their own.
Exactly. And he breaks down the mastermind into two aspects, really. First, there's the practical economic advantage. Pooling knowledge, getting advice, cooperating strategically. That's pretty straightforward. But then there's this more psychic phase he describes.
Intriguing.
Yeah. He suggests that when minds coordinate in harmony, they generate more thought energy. He even compares brains to electric batteries. A group working together provides more power to each individual within it. It's like a mental synergy.
And he points to Henry Ford again here, right, with his alliances.
Absolutely. Ford's biggest leaps, his most incredible achievements, really took off when he formed close friendships with people like Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, John Burroughs, Luther Burbank, giants in their fields. He was essentially creating a powerful mastermind, absorbing their knowledge, their ways of thinking.
It wasn't just networking, it was a deep intellectual connection.
Precisely. And for a historical example, Hill actually frames the signing of the Declaration of Independence as a mastermind group in action.
Really?
Yeah. The 56 signers, figures like Hancock, Adams, their unified, definite decision, he argues, literally birthed a nation. It highlights the sheer scale of what organized, harmonious effort towards a clear goal can achieve.
Okay, so taking that idea of collaboration and focused intent, how does this translate into practical career strategy? The book talks about planning the sale of services.
Right. It gets very practical here.
One tool that stands out is the QQS formula: quality, quantity, and the proper spirit of cooperation. So quality is about doing every detail efficiently. Quantity is rendering all the service you're capable of. And spirit, well, that's about having an agreeable, harmonious attitude that actually encourages cooperation.
It's a holistic approach, not just competence, but capacity and attitude combined. And this ties into his advice on strategic self-marketing. He basically says, don't just look for a job, that's passive. Instead, decide exactly what kind of a job you want, then choose the company, really study your potential employer, and crucially, figure out what you can offer.
So shift from asking for a job to offering value.
Exactly. It's a proactive, value-first approach.
And there's that amazing example of the woman who prepared the brief for her son.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. It was, what, nearly 50 pages?
Something like that. Detailing his skills, experience, education. But the kicker was
the marvelous word picture, as Hill calls it, of the exact plan he'd use in the job, including specific suggestions to benefit the employer.
And it worked, right? He got a junior executive role, basically set his own starting salary, and skipped years of climbing the ladder.
It just shows the power of preparation, research, and presenting yourself as a solution, not just a job applicant.
Yeah, the message seems pretty clear. Don't just wait for things to happen. Create your opportunities. And use the power of collaboration, that mastermind idea, to amplify your efforts. 3, how to outwit the 6 basic ghosts of fear. Okay, moving on. The third insight tackles something huge: the psychological roadblocks. Hill makes this striking claim. Indecision is the seedling of fear.
It's a powerful connection. He says indecision kind of crystallizes into doubt, and then doubt blends into fear. And the danger is how subtly it happens. These internal enemies, they grow quietly, often under the radar, until they're really entrenched.
He identifies specific fears, doesn't he? The 6 basic ghosts.
That's right. The 6 basic fears are poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Hill believes these are at the bottom of most of one's worries, and to conquer them, he insists you have to know their name, habits, and place of abode. Basically, deep self-awareness is the starting point.
Let's touch on a couple. The fear of poverty. He calls this one the most destructive, and maybe the hardest to master.
Yeah, he links it partly to this historical tendency for people to prey upon his fellow man economically, a rather stark view.
It is, but he really emphasizes the suffering and humiliation poverty can bring and how paralyzing that fear can become. It can even show up physically.
And then there's the fear of criticism, another really potent one. Hill argues it just robs man of his initiative, destroys imagination, limits individuality, takes away self-reliance.
He gives examples like men wearing hats just because they fear judgment.
Right, or women rigidly following fashion trends. Simple examples, but they illustrate the point. He also warns about how parental criticism can inflict lasting damage on a child's confidence.
And the fear of ill health. He connects that often to hypochondria-imagined illness.
And how negative suggestions, even our own negative self-talk, can actually create physical symptoms. It's quite psychosomatic.
He even mentions that changing your mental attitude, maybe by moving somewhere new, can sometimes improve health.
That
underscores that mind-body connection.
So, faced with all these pervasive fears, what's the solution according to Hill?
The antidote, he says, is prompt and firm decision.
Decision. Simple but powerful.
Yeah. He advises, quite bluntly, to kill the habit of worry by reaching a general blanket decision that nothing which life has to offer is worth the price of worry.
Wow. A blanket decision?
It's about making a resolute mental shift. A commitment to action over inaction, because inaction or indecision is where fear breeds.
Okay, that's a very direct approach. Prompt, firm decision is the cure for fear. But in today's world, we're drowning in information. Analysis paralysis is a real thing. How do you think that prompt decision idea holds up now? Is it just about being decisive? Or are there nuances we need to consider in our information-rich age?
That's a really good point. I don't think Hill meant making rash or uninformed decisions. It seems more about breaking the habit of indecision itself. It's about avoiding that limbo state where fear festers. So gather your information, yes, but then have the courage to make the call and act, rather than getting perpetually stuck analyzing. Overcome the procrastination that feeds the fear.
That makes sense. It's about the act of deciding, not necessarily instantaneous decisions, overcoming that inertia.
Exactly. And clearing those fears opens up space for the mind's higher faculties, which brings us perfectly to our final key takeaway. 4. Imagination, autosuggestion, and the sixth sense. This fourth insight really delves into the creative and perhaps more mystical aspects of the mind, starting with imagination. Hill calls it literally the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man.
Mental workshop. I like that.
Yeah. And he states boldly, man can create anything which he can imagine. Imagination is positioned as the absolute starting point for all achievement.
Building on that, he introduces autosuggestion. This is the idea that essentially one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself.
Whether the statement be true or false, that's crucial.
Absolutely. He argues that thoughts, especially when mixed with strong emotion, become like a magnetic force. They attract similar thoughts and directly influence the subconscious mind. And the subconscious then works to translate those dominant thoughts or desires into physical reality. But he warns this works both ways. It can be constructive or destructive, depending on your habitual thoughts.
Then he goes further, talking about creative imagination. He sometimes calls this the sixth sense.
Right. And he says this faculty is what marks the difference between a genius and an ordinary individual.
How does it work?
Well, he suggests it's developed through active use. It becomes receptive to ideas, inspirations, flashes of insight, hunches, perhaps that wouldn't normally reach the conscious mind through the five senses alone. It's like tuning into a different frequency.
He uses that amazing story of the enchanted kettle, right?
Yes. The young drug clerk who buys an old kettle and a secret formula for $500. A tiny investment.
But by adding his own imagination and desire to those simple instructions,
he creates fabulous fortunes. It's widely believed this refers to the Coca-Cola formula.
and that business thrived even during the Great Depression.
Exactly. It's a powerful illustration of how a simple idea, when fueled by belief and imagination, can generate immense wealth, far exceeding the value of the initial stuff.
There's also the mention of Dr. Elmer R. Gates.
Oh yeah, the inventor. He apparently got over 200 patents by deliberately cultivating this creative faculty. He described receiving detailed, complex ideas from unknown sources of knowledge. consciously tapping into that sixth sense.
And then there's a concept that might sound a bit, well, dated, perhaps.
Yeah.
Sex transmutation.
Yes. That one definitely requires a bit of interpretation for a modern audience. Hill claims the desire for sexual expression is by far the strongest of all the human emotions.
Okay.
And his point is, when this powerful energy is harnessed and transmuted, channeled into action other than physical expression, it can elevate someone to the level of genius.
So it's about redirecting a powerful drive.
Essentially, yes. He sees it as a potent mind stimulant. It increases the vibration of thought, makes the creative imagination more receptive, and even contributes to personal magnetism, which he saw as valuable in fields like sales.
That's quite a perspective, especially for 1937. How should someone listening today approach an idea like sex transmutation? It sounds a bit out there compared to modern psychology.
Well, if you strip away the specific, slightly archaic phrasing, the core idea resonates with modern concepts. Think about channeling intense passion or drive. Psychology today certainly recognizes that strong emotional energy, whether it's ambition, intense focus, deep curiosity, or, yes, even primal drives, can be consciously redirected. It's about taking that potent internal force and deliberately aiming it at a specific, often higher goal. This can supercharge focus, creativity, and productivity. It's less about the specific source Hill named and more about the principle of transmuting powerful energy.
Okay, I see. So the underlying message here is that some of the most powerful forces aren't the obvious tangible ones. They're intangible, operating beyond our everyday senses.
Precisely.
And the book really pushes you, challenges you to actively engage with these unseen powers within your own mind. Imagination, self-belief, directed emotional energy to consciously shape your life and outcomes.
Wow.
So as we wrap up our discussion on Think and Grow Rich, that central message just echoes, doesn't it? Riches begin in the firm of thought.
It really does. Wealth, success, fulfillment, whatever riches means to you, it's not about luck or chance, according to Hill. It comes from deliberately applying definite principles.
Right, with persistent effort, fueled by that definite burning desire and underpinned by unwavering faith or belief.
Absolutely. The book is ultimately empowering. It puts the control firmly in your hands, reminding you that you can control your thoughts. And by controlling your thoughts, you can shape your destiny. It reframes obstacles and temporary defeats not as failures, but as signals. Signals to pause, reassess, maybe adjust the plan, but never abandon the core desire.
That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.